Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We take your sources, we dig in, and we try to pull out what really matters. Today we're looking at something that sits right where, well, outdoor adventure meets practical protection: hunting lease insurance. We've got this article, 5 Reasons Why You Should Invest in Hunting Lease Insurance, and our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to peel back the layers on what this actually is, who it's for, and maybe why it's, way more important than a lot of folks might think.
Yeah, it's definitely an important conversation to have. I mean, when you think about activities like hunting, things that happen outdoors, often on land someone else owns, well, understanding the risks involved and how to manage them, that's just crucial. This deep dive, I think, will really show how it secures property, sure, but maybe more importantly, it secures peace of mind for, well, for everyone involved.
Exactly. So whether you're the landowner, maybe you're part of a hunt club, or you're just an individual hunter leasing a spot, if leasing land for hunting is part of your world, this is absolutely for you. We'll get into the liability side, the coverage it offers, and maybe bust a few myths, like why just getting a signature on a waiver.
Right.
Well, why that might not be the safety net you assume it is. Okay, so let's unpack this first part. Hunting lease insurance. Some listeners might be hearing that term for the first time. What's the basic idea? Like, what is it and who's it meant to protect?
Right. So at its core, it's a specific kind of insurance. Liability coverage, really. It's designed for situations where landowners lease their property out, specifically for hunting. And the main point, according to the source, is to protect the key players, the landowner, obviously, but also the hunt clubs using the land, and the individual hunters themselves. Protect them from what? From potential legal trouble. Lawsuits, claims, things that can pop up if there's an accident or some kind of incident while hunting on that leased land. Think of it as a financial shield for those unexpected problems.
Gotcha. So it's covering those what-ifs, the things you hope don't happen during hunting season, but sometimes do. Can you give us some more specific examples? What kind of incidents are we actually talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. Incident can be broad, you're right. It covers, for instance, legal costs and damages if someone gets hurt. A personal injury, that could be, a hunter falling out of a tree stand, maybe a guest twists an ankle on rough ground, or unfortunately something more serious involving a firearm. But it's not just about injuries to people, it also covers property damage. Say a hunter's truck accidentally damages a gate, or their campfire isn't fully put out and causes some damage. This insurance aims to cover the financial fallout from situations like those. It helps prevent huge financial hits and messy legal battles for everybody.
Okay, now this next point feels really crucial, especially for the landowners listening. The article talks about significant risks to their property, their assets. How exactly does this insurance act as a safeguard for, well, their whole financial picture?
Yeah, this is a big one, because without this specific kind of insurance, well, a single accident on the property, it's not just a small problem. It can explode into massive legal fees, court cases that drag on, and settlements can be incredibly costly. The source really emphasizes this. An accident could seriously threaten the landowner's entire financial stability. We're talking potentially losing savings, having to sell land, maybe even putting the family home at risk. It's not just about, paying for a broken leg. It's about protecting everything you've worked for from one bad event.
Wow. That really puts it into perspective. It's not just lease admin, it's risk management on a potentially catastrophic level. So it sounds like having this insurance is what really allows landowners to lease out their property, make some income from it without that constant worry, that sort of background anxiety about liability.
Exactly. That's precisely the point. It transforms the situation. Landowners can actually have peace of mind. They know their property, their assets, their future. It's protected, which means they can focus on the positives, right? Managing the lease well, building good relationships with the hunters. It helps make leasing a viable, less stressful way to utilize their land, backed by a solid safety net.
Okay, let's dig a bit deeper now into one specific part the article mentions: personal injury liability coverage. That sounds really important, especially given, the nature of hunting. What exactly does that piece cover for a landowner?
Yeah, personal injury liability is it's a cornerstone of this type of policy. And it's different from just general property damage coverage. It specifically shields the landowner and the hunters listed on the policy from the often really high costs linked to someone getting hurt, bodily injury. So think medical bills, which can be astronomical, rehabilitation costs, maybe lost wages if the person can't work, pain and suffering claims, and of course the legal fees involved in defending against a claim, plus any damages awarded by a court. Now, who could get injured? It could be one of the hunters, maybe a guest they brought along. It could even be someone who wasn't supposed to be there, like a trespasser who gets hurt. And it covers those common hunting-related risks. Falls from tree stands are a big one. Accidental firearm incidents, even accidents involving ATVs on the property. These incidents can unfortunately be severe, and this coverage stops the financial impact from landing entirely on the landowner.
Right. So it really expands the protection beyond just, say, a damaged fence to the human element, the very real and potentially very expensive consequences of an accident. It lets landowners focus on managing their property in the lease, rather than having that constant low-level dread about potential lawsuits. It's proactive protection.
Precisely. It acknowledges that hunting, while a great activity, does have inherent dangers. And this coverage ensures that if one of those dangers leads to an actual injury, there's a financial mechanism ready to handle it. It protects the landowner from financial ruin due to something that might have been completely unforeseen or outside their direct control.
Okay, now let's tackle something I bet a lot of people rely on, or think they can rely on. Waivers. Just have everyone sign this form and I'm covered. But the source is pretty blunt here. It says, signing a waiver is not enough. So why isn't a simple signature enough? What's the gap here when it comes to real liability protection?
Yes, the waiver issue. This is such a critical point and honestly a really common misunderstanding. Waivers feel like they offer solid protection, but the legal reality is, well, it's much trickier. Generally speaking, a waiver might release you from liability, but usually only for the inherent risks of the activity. Risks that the person signing is, fully aware of and agrees to accept. Like, yes, hunting involves risks like falling or tripping. But here's the key. If an injury happens because of your negligence as the landowner, meaning you didn't take reasonable care to keep the property safe that waiver, it often won't protect you in court.
Negligence. Okay, that's the crucial word there. So the waiver covers the known risks of hunting itself, but maybe not the landowner failing to act responsibly. Can you give an example of that kind of negligence?
Exactly. That's the distinction. Think of it like this. A hunter signs a waiver. They know climbing a tree stand is risky. If they fall because they slipped or maybe their own stand failed, the waiver might hold up. But what if the landowner provided that tree stand and it was clearly old and unsafe? Or what if they knew about, say, a hidden hole or an unmarked hazard on the property and didn't warn anyone or fix it and someone gets hurt because of that? That's potentially negligence. The landowner failed in their duty to provide a reasonably safe environment. In that case, a court could easily decide the waiver doesn't apply because the injury wasn't just due to the inherent risk of hunting, but due to the landowner's failure. So yeah, it gives a false sense of security. It doesn't cover your own responsibilities.
Okay, so the waiver is more like acknowledging the game has rules, but it doesn't protect you if you, the landowner, break the rules of providing a safe place to play, so to speak. And that's the gap. That's where hunting lease liability insurance really makes the difference. It's designed for those unexpected situations, including potential negligence claims.
Precisely. This insurance provides that comprehensive coverage. Bodily injury, property damage, yes, but critically, also the legal defense costs. That's something a waiver just can't offer when negligence is part of the picture. It proactively manages the financial risks that come with allowing hunting on your property, covering those gray areas and landowner duties, not just the hunter's accepted risks. It's really the difference between just hoping nothing goes wrong and actually being prepared if it does.
This all makes a ton of sense, and it sounds incredibly valuable. But the practical question always comes up. Cost. Is this type of insurance super expensive? Is it only realistic for large operations? Or, as the article might suggest, is it perhaps more affordable than people think?
That's always the bottom line question, isn't it? And it's fair. Look, the exact cost will vary. It depends on, how much coverage you need, the duration, the size of the property, the state you're in. But the article makes a really strong point. The cost of the insurance premium is often minor, absolutely minor, when you compare it to the potential cost of not having it. Think about those potential legal fees, settlements. They can run into hundreds of thousands, easily, maybe millions. So when you weigh the annual premium against that kind of potential financial disaster and factor in the peace of mind it buys, it often turns out to be a very affordable and very wise investment.
That's really good to hear. It frames it as an investment in security, not just an expense. So for someone listening now who's thinking, okay, I need to look into this, what info do they typically need to have ready to get a quote or start the process?
Right. To get an accurate quote and the right policy, there are usually 3 key things providers need. First, the number of acres you need covered. Makes sense. Size impacts risk. Second, the state where the property is located. Insurance rules, liability laws, they differ quite a bit state by state. And third, how many property owners need to be listed on the policy? Make sure everyone with an ownership interest is protected. The article also mentions that good providers make this process pretty simple. It actually gives the American Hunting Lease Association, AHLA, as an example. They've been doing this for over 15 years, cover a huge number of hunters and landowners, like over 300,000 hunters, 100,000 landowners, covering 1.2 million acres. They use what's called a master policy approach, which is designed to protect both the hunters and the landowners effectively. That kind of specialization can often lead to good coverage at a reasonable price.
Okay, so wrapping this up then. After digging into this source, it seems really clear. Hunting lease insurance isn't just some optional extra you might bolt on. It's positioned as, well, pretty essential, a must-have safeguard if you're involved in leasing land for hunting. It's way more than just a policy document. It feels like real, tangible protection for everyone involved.
I think that's exactly right. It boils down to protection. Protection from those curveballs life can throw an unexpected injury, property damage, the legal headaches that follow. It basically helps ensure that enjoying hunting or benefiting from leasing your land doesn't come with this huge hidden financial risk. And when you look at the cost versus that peace of mind versus avoiding potential financial ruin, its value really becomes clear. It's foundational protection.
Yeah, this deep dive definitely makes you think differently about risk and responsibility when it comes to enjoying the outdoors. So, if you are a landowner, if you run a hunt club, if you're a hunter leasing land, the question becomes, what steps can you take, maybe even today, to make sure that whole experience is truly safe? Safe not just for you, but for everyone involved, protecting property, protecting people, protecting financial futures. And maybe ask yourself, how does having that proactive protection change how you approach the season? Does it let you focus more on the enjoyment, knowing that safety net is in place? We really hope this conversation has helped clear things up and maybe given you a path towards securing that essential peace of mind.